If you're watching this, then you or somebody you love is probably dealing with the results of gauged earlobes. Now, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, most people didn't have any idea what a gauged earlobe is. Nowadays, if you walk on the streets of any urban center, you will probably see multiple people who have gauged ears. And now we're dealing with some of the consequences of it as well. So, what this is basically is you may see people, if you are new to this, uh, gauging their ears. And what that is basically is when you take an actual piercing of the earlobe and you use progressively larger earrings to widen that hole to make that hole quite large. And some people, the hole can be very large, even like this big in their earlobe. And it's basically just a body modification. It's one of the most mild forms, technically, of body modification. Typically, this is performed by a body modification expert, which a lot of times they're kind of associated with tattoo parlors and that type of business. And so a lot of young people are doing it. It's just a way of expressing themselves. But we are seeing more and more people coming into the office who are dealing then with these earlobes that have gotten so stretched out that when those gauge earrings are removed, the earlobes look kind of funny. In extreme cases, it can literally look like a long spaghetti noodle hanging from your earlobe. In other cases, it just looks like a big, wide, stretched out piercing. So I'm seeing a lot of young people coming in for it because they may have it done when they're in a certain part of their life. They get past that, and maybe now they want to go into a certain professional field, and they feel that the appearance of that is something that may potentially hold them back. So we're treating these much more in the office now. So let me show you just an example of a gauged earlobe. So if you take a peek at the picture on the left, you can see what's really a mild to moderate size gauged earring, and you can see it stretching the earlobe out. On the right side, you can see a picture of how it looks when that earring is removed, and you can see it just kind of looks like a sad earlobe with a big hole in it. So the only way to treat this, as you can probably guess, is surgical. And this is something that we do in the office, where basically the earlobe is numbed up using a needle, and then I remove the excess skin from the earlobe and basically suture things back together. Now, this is not something that is done the same way in everybody, because everybody's earlobe, when it's gauged, looks a bit different when the gauged earring is removed. And once again, some people have pretty large gauged earrings in there, and other people, like this one, isn't real extreme. Okay, and so this patient, a young guy, he had it done, and what I ended up doing basically is cutting out the excess lobe and stitching it together. And this is a pretty standard repair of a gauged earlobe. Now this young guy, real nice young guy, had these gauged earrings for several years, and found that he was having a hard time getting a job actually with it. So we repaired it. It does create a scar there, okay? And typically it's a linear or straight line scar both on the front and the back of the earlobe. The procedure to repair the earlobes, if it's just one side, could be about 20 minutes to a half hour. If it's both sides, it could be about 45 minutes or so to complete both sides, because it is a bit of kind of trying to put things together to make it look as natural as possible. What we want to try to avoid when we repair these gauged earlobes is a notch along the earlobe itself, because that could be a sign that you've got a scar there. And so we want to try to create of the earlobe a nice smooth contour so that that looks very natural. There is a scar there afterwards. If you decide after the gauged earlobe repair to re-pierce, you want to re-pierce next to the scar, not in the scar. The scar will only retain, or will only gain, about 80 to 85% of the strength of the surrounding skin. Okay, and because of that, if you're going to pierce next to it, or you're going to pierce the earlobe again, you want to pierce next to it, not into it. And I typically recommend people waiting about 6 to 8 weeks to do that. So once again, the procedure is done in the office under a local anesthetic. So you come in, we have you sign the consent papers, we take some photographs, and then I do the markings, the tentative markings on your earlobe. Then I use a local anesthetic to inject to numb the earlobe up. That's the only bad part of it, okay? And it's just a little needle, and you'll feel a little bit of burning as we numb that up, and we do it on both sides. And then I remove the excess earlobe skin, kind of suture things back together, try to make it look as nice as possible. Afterwards, there are the permanent stitches that do actually come out after about 6 to 7 days. There's a few stitches on the back that we usually leave in for added strength that fall out on their own after a couple of weeks. After the procedure is done, you put some antibiotic ointment on a couple of times a day and watch out for signs of infection. The risks of this procedure are quite small. Really, the main thing is scarring. You could have a visible scar there, you could have a thick scar there. There could be notching there, although that's very unusual. I try to avoid that with the procedure. There's always risks of infection as well, but that risk is very, very low. And so this is a very well-tolerated procedure, something we do, once again, quite commonly in the office for those people who want to kind of reverse the gauging of their earlobes. So I hope that this was helpful for you. If you or somebody that you love has got gauged earlobes and they want to get them treated, happy to do it for you. Just give the office a call. This is something I'm assuming that we'll see more and more in my office as time goes on and more people are doing it. Thank you for watching.